guys, welcome back to my corner of the internet. Obviously, if you clicked on this video, you are excited and wanting to see what my top usage palettes were for quarter number 3 of 2025. This is a loosely project pan that I started in the beginning of the year. I wanted to see what palettes I was reaching for the most, if there's any palettes that I should get rid of, what it is that I like to play around with in each season. And I took it a step further in the last quarter and rearranged my whole entire makeup wardrobe to work with that. So now all of my makeup is catered to seasonally. That's how I wear my makeup. That's how I love to reach for my makeup. So everything is now categorized in drawers according to season. That has also helped me to see what season has a lot of what, so it allows me to understand my makeup process. And it's not a surprise that this quarter you're going to see my usage a little bit low, solely because I was reaching for other things. So I am here to share with you guys my top 5 palettes in the last 3 months. That is July, August, and September. We are not including October. October will be for the last quarter. So if you're interested to see what my top 5 palettes are, how many palettes so far I've reached for this year versus last quarter, stay tuned. So let me set the stage for you guys so you know what exactly we are going to be talking about in this video. First and foremost, if you are new, you may not know that in the summer, which is basically the last 3 months that I'm talking about, is when I mainly reach for single products, my single eye products. That includes pigments, cream products, liquid products, shadow sticks, one and done kind of shadows, add a sparkle. Eyeliners were a thing for me this summer. I really loved colorful eyeliners to accent my eyes, to add a little sparkle and an eyeliner, smoky eye kind of thing. I really didn't reach for a ton of eyeshadow palettes, so I'm not surprised at the palettes that I pulled out today and the low usage that I'm getting versus the last 2 quarters where my usage numbers were a lot higher per palette. The second thing I want to mention is this project pan has, the reason I should say that I started this project pan, I'm using that word loosely because it's just more of a thing for me to understand my data, understand my makeup wardrobe. So it's more like data for me, but you guys are here along for the ride. I realized that I truly am a seasonally wearing makeup person. I love to wear certain things at certain seasons. Obviously, not everyone's is like this, and that's perfectly fine. So I took it a step further this past quarter and rearranged my whole entire makeup wardrobe seasonally. That has worked so well for me. This was a suggestion by a subscriber a few years ago, and I didn't listen then because I was being stubborn, thinking, no, that's not really how I am. Sure enough, that's exactly how I am. So the majority of my makeup collection now is in drawers according to seasons. So I've been able to realize why I buy certain palettes at a certain time of the year and what I reach for at a certain time of the year, and hence the reason why some categories have a lot more things than others in certain times of the year, which is so fascinating to me. Did not know that until I did this. So I just wanted to let you guys know that because the palettes that I have here have very low usage, but it was because in the summer I did not reach for eyeshadow palettes. Now that the weather has cooled down, there's something in my brain that clicks and I go back to eyeshadow palettes. I love to wear eyeshadow palettes during the cooler months, so that's what I'm wearing. I wear more intricate looks like today, where I played around with a little bit of color and a little bit more pizzazz than I normally would in the summertime. I'm not reaching for my singles as much, but I'm reaching for palettes more. So today we're gonna get to the 5 palettes that I have and how many palettes so far I've used, so let's get into it. All right, the bottom 2 palettes have the same amount of usage, and my palette kind of selection has changed too, which is really fascinating to me. I really like this, and it's also been able to help me curve my spending. So I haven't really brought that many eyeshadow palettes in because I have so much that I've seen now that look new to me, so I'm excited for that. So bottom of the barrel, we have 2 that are there with 3 uses. The first one is Pat McGrath Midnight Sun. This was used 3 times in the last 3 months. And I will say it's not mainly for the, the special shadows. I actually used it for a few looks. So I am happy to say that I have gotten in my head that I shouldn't leave my expensive palettes just for events that are special, and I should use them for any time I feel like it. I realized now even more that my eyelids are super oily and the inexpensive shadows just don't work for me. So why am I trying to use and beat up my older palettes or my eyeshadows that are not that good instead of using the really good ones that actually work and I don't have to babysit? So I'm happy to say that I'm reaching for that a lot more, and this is no surprise that this one came in here. This is a beautiful palette for like the summer season. This one's in my summer and I really like it. So I got 3 uses out of this one, and again, it wasn't just the special shadows, it was for the looks itself, like a whole look. The other one that got 3 uses was this one that's reflecting you and blinding you. It is the Natasha Denona Glam Face Light one. This is one that I actually used as a whole. It wasn't just for the eyeshadows. I also used the blush and the highlighter, and I love this blush. It really does last on my cheeks. Natasha Denona face palettes, her cream products, have always been wonderful for me, and I've always loved them. And these are beautiful. These were really good for just the mattes or adding the sparkle or just doing a whole look with them. So I'm happy to say that this got more use out of it, and I got 3 uses out of that one as well. Funny enough, palette number 3 and 2 also got the same amount of usage this past quarter. First one is the Anastasia Sultry. Guys, at this point, it should be no surprise that this eyeshadow palette is one of my top 3 favorites ever of all time. And I am so in love with this palette that yes, I do have a brand new one sitting in a box. And I rarely buy backups, but I did with this one because I love it that much. This palette is just my favorite. It is truly my favorite. And yes, I see these shadows deteriorating just a bit for me, but they still work just as well on my eyes. I can still make it work, so I have no problem with it. So this one got 4 uses. I wouldn't be surprised if you see this one yet again in the last quarter. It so far has made its top 5 presents in the last 3 quarters, including this one. And I don't do that intentionally. I genuinely do not do that intentionally. It just so happens that when I look up at all of my data, this pops up every time. So that just shows what I love, and I love this palette. I love that it's cool and warm all in one, and the shimmers is just one of the best ones they've ever come out with, and I wish they would come out with this one again. I know they have the smaller one, and I'm really tempted to buy the smaller one because that's how much I love this one. The other one they got 4 uses was this one, which is another surprise. So I have included all of my shadows in this kind of ranking, all of my palettes, including quads and things. And this one got 4 uses as well. This is the Urban Decay Moondust Quad. This is the one that came in the acrylic. So here's where you have Space Cowboy Rides Again, A-List Energy, Sparkle, Hour, and what's the last one? Lunar Lit. Those are the 4 shadows that are in here. And spoiler alert, I have also been using it this past quarter as well. I actually just used this one 2 days ago. I really like this. I don't know what it is, but I really, really like this. These Moondust shadows have always been my favorite. I own the OG original whole entire collection. I love them. I have them still in their old packaging. I never got rid of them and replaced them, and I've always purchased all the newer ones. It broke my heart when they came out with that blue one over the summer, and it was only overseas, and I could not get my hands on it in the United States. The one with the blue and the, I forget what it was called, the Icy Quad. Oh, so mad because I don't have anything like that, and I would have loved that for the winter time. So I even recently just looked up to see if I could find it. Can't find it anywhere. So that's the only one I'm missing, but I love these. I always reach for these. So I'm not surprised that this got 4 uses this month because it is a beautiful palette and it worked really good for the summertime. All right, last but not least, the one that got the most usage, and it was for a reason, and unfortunately I don't have it no longer in its packaging because I put it back in its main thing, but it's the whole point that I'll let you guys know. So it was my Makeup Geek singles. Again, it should be no surprise that I was using singles in the summer. That's what I was reaching for. Single potted stuff, single cream stuff, single liquid stuff. I right now have switched it up about a month ago. Right before I started doing Shop My Stash again, I had switched these up. And now I have this trio, and then I have a quad of other Makeup Geek shadows that I want to use for the summertime. But remember that I had all matte palette for the summer during that last quarter. And I ended up reaching for the quad 10 times. 10 uses because I was using creme brulee, I believe it was called. I think it was a creme brulee that I was using as a crease, and I ended up hitting pan on that one, a pretty decent pan on it as well. So you'll see that at the end of the year, all of my pans I've used for the year. It was in this packaging, Anastasia packaging. I have since switched it up for now the fall season, and I've added this one. So I just keep these together, and I just use these sparingly whenever I want to. But these are my Makeup Geek singles. I'm trying to rotate through them because at this point, my Makeup Geek singles are my oldest singles in my collection. They're still working fine. They still look beautiful on the eyes. But that got 10 uses. It wasn't necessarily this quad, but just bear in mind it was a quad in general. And I did share that with you guys in one of my monthly updates, what it looked like. If I could remember to go back, I'll screenshot it so you guys can see that. But that was my most used for the last quarter, was 10 uses. No surprise there. All right, now that I shared with you guys my top 5 palettes that I used for the last quarter, last update, if I remember correctly, we had pulled out, at that point in June, I had used 56 palettes overall in my collection. At this point, I have reached 98 palettes. That is 50%, close to 50% of my eyeshadow palettes. I am very excited about that. Like I mentioned, I am including my quads, my duos, my quints, all those, any eyeshadow palette that I have that is not considered a shadow stick, a single pot, that kind of stuff. If it is in a palette form, I am including it in this ranking. So anything I reach for that's a duo, anything that I reach for that's a trio, anything I reach for that's a quad, a quint, they are all included in this, including my eyeshadow palette. So I'm actually happy to say this should be an indication of how I use my makeup, at least for me, and you guys can see that. My most used were singles. Like I said, I didn't know this was coming until I sat down to get everything together for this video. That it's funny enough that I say that I use singles a lot in the summer, and here it is, the top ones were singles out of my collection, not an actual palette. Now that we are moving into the fall and winter season, there's going to be a lot more palette usage. I will incorporate my singles, but I don't reach for them as much as I do in the summer into fall kind of season, spring a little bit. This is why I have so much more of those in those seasons versus in the winter time. So you're going to see palette usage. I'd love to know what palette you think I'll use in the next quarter. Bear in mind, I am having some eyeshadow palettes on my wish list that I do want to purchase. So they're going to take up some time, and they're also going to be included in this ranking. So I may fall in love with a new palette that I will be receiving in the near future, maybe as a gift, maybe as a purchase for myself. At this point, I've only purchased 3 eyeshadow palettes so far. That doesn't mean that I will purchase something. It doesn't mean that I won't purchase something, but at least I know for a fact that I was able to curb that spending by doing this project pan, loving what I have, rearranging my collection to work for me. And now it feels like I have a brand new collection, and I'm playing around with new things that I haven't even played around with in a while to see if I still want to use it or not. So far, I have not wanted to declutter anything, but it also means that I haven't brought much in to want to declutter. Everything that I have right now, it's curated kind of. I know I still have a large collection, but that's okay with me. I would love to know what your most used palette so far has been for you. Those are always fun to hear. It just kind of tells us about ourselves, and Sultry is still here, and she's still here to stay. I just love that palette so much. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I'd love to know what your favorite palette is. Leave it down in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching, for commenting, for suggesting, for liking, for sharing my videos. You guys are amazing. I always say that, and I truly, truly mean that. May God bless you always. I'll see you guys in the next one.